Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Field of Glory 2. And a quick note, though most aren't following exactly the details of the rules, but if you want to win a Slitherine game, there will be several to choose from. Go to episode 117 of the current Hearts of Iron 3 game, the Japanese series, episode 117, and somewhere during it, roughly about the middle, but you can find it, are instructions on how to enter the contest to win a free Slitherine game. I don't want to get wrong the titles right now, but so three games will be given out, and you'll have some choices of what's available. Okay, so let's continue this. So yeah, you can put this on pause, go watch that. Trust me, I think you'd like most of their games that are currently off to offer. Okay, I think we should really start just hammering these guys with arrows. I think we're within enough range to really sort of, and also on all this sort of topic, I am reading the book currently. It's Legion versus Phalanx, or it's Phalanx versus Legion, but really good book. It's talking a lot about classical warfare, but really it's specifically a deep dive looking at, I think it's going to be 5 or 6 battles, just sort of in the first third of the book right now, in which these guys, these are hoplites. Okay, and they talk about the hoplite, as I sort of call them, but the oplites, I think, is the way they're pronouncing it. You know, sort of dropping the H and doing oplites instead of hoplites. They're probably more correct. The oplites version, and they sort of look at the earlier, which is a phalanx, but it's not the Macedonian phalanx. And talk about how this was a big shield, sort of heavy, and to go to the Macedonian phalanx with the longer pike, the Sarissa, did I get that right? They had to go to a much smaller shield, less concave, so that it was flatter, but that was strapped to the arm instead of held by the hand, and to use the left hand to hold the Sarissa pike, whatever you want to call it. So and how that changes, and then the Legion changes over time, but I haven't gotten through it yet, but it's looking and seeming good. Okay, now these guys did fire, these guys haven't. These guys are here doing their sort of job. Well, this will get more damage. You can still run away. I'm okay. Ooh, they moved nice and close, so they're going to get slaughtered. So we're going to do some slaughtering here, because now they've been hit twice. And yes, I have to normally do sort of concentrate my fire. I think because of this we will have an opportunity there, so let's there is a new version out of this, which the sort of patch notes said that some features, if you have a previously started game, hence this will continue to work, but you won't get all the new features. I'm so glad they're continuing to work and tweak this. So I know this is turn-based, and I know they have, which I think is a very good Total War series, simultaneous action kind of thing. That's really good too. But I just, maybe because I'm old. Yeah, let's hit that. Hit that hard. Okay, they're disrupted now. Go further away. These are the skirmishers and not the mainland, but I think we have enough. Okay, let's take out the skirmishers in front of us. Yeah, since these guys won't be able to shoot around them, and yeah, we'll just take these guys on. No, they're just the... We talk a lot about how difficult it was to turn a phalanx. I'm so glad they're going into the detail in the book. It's meant to be an accessible book. It's not meant to be, too impenetrable to viewers. But so yeah, they talk about the white shields in some armies, and how that they weren't as good as the silver gold shields. Okay. And I totally get the, and I've known way back in university and college, as we colloquially call it, but some of you guys the term university because it was a university, talking about the both hoplites and the pelites, which because it's basically the same word for the peltis, because some peltis use the pelte or whatever, the small shield, but going to a small shield. So they talk about how different writers at different times were confused. There's some confusion over terms that I think were common at different times in different regions. How this is, and I've known, so vulnerable from the flank. But how do I put this? Yeah, that is the reality of classical warfare, that if you could hit this formation in the flank, or particularly in the rear, with any sort of force, not just maybe a few skirmishers. They talk about how the various forms, they did carry swords, but they were very weak on sword fighting. At least that's the conclusion of this author. And where the Romans were focused on sword fighting with their shields. But to a point, because I conflate, look at different but similar things in history, that we have the the pike square, and how it had the ability to fight in all four directions at the same time, in that they with certain commands, they would put pikes out in all four directions at once, or just one or more. So I'm a little, and now the pikes did not use any shields. They and I remember reading Niccolo Machiavelli, because he did write a book which I have on the shelf, called The Art of War. So did Samson. Not Samson. Sun Tzu. Boy, that was a goof. Sun Tzu, right? The Art of War. But so did Niccolo Machiavelli write a book back in his day on the Art of War. And he disbelieved that you could use a shield and a pike at the same time. He flat out goes, no, can't do it. And I remember reading that. and I don't remember exactly what he said, that maybe they carried the shield, you know, for the big pikes, not for like a spear and shield, you know, the earlier hoplites. Gonna get used to trying to say that, because I can see how you could say instead of hoplites, but sound more cool. But he'd really disbelieved the idea of a pike and shield that could be used simultaneously, because of course they had, you know, various Vikings and you know, with the shield wall, you know, that you can have a shorter offhand weapon, you know, or single hand weapon, and use that with it, but you couldn't use a proper pike. Well, of course they did. Now, so I take it as being they're facing about in different directions. Very well may be a limitation with the shield, particularly the heavy shield, and that may have gotten them into a mindset of not having the ability. But the other thing they talked about was, and the author mentions things briefly and goes through, but that's a subject for another book, constantly, because it is, you know, you could constantly grow this book into other things. How some of the horse units of the time period, no, oh shoot, undo, let's get this guy. Oh, undo. I don't like how it sort of gets a little delayed before I can select the other one. How some of the I think it was the pike horse, but at least one formation of horse was a triangle formation, which I definitely knew that, and I'm pretty sure this is the pike horse, because they did have a sort of pike horse as opposed to and I'm meaning more of a pike and not a, you know, a spear. Don't know how well it was done, and the difference between a sort of pike or lance, and particularly specifically once you get into a proper lance, the idea is you hold a lance under your shoulder or arm, meaning you're sort of you're holding onto it, and then you balance and tuck it into your arm for an impact weapon. Where a spear, generally speaking, on a horse, you use it overhand and stab down at your opponent, and that is what. Because I do know that the Macedonians did have some sort of, and I don't know. They also talked, because the author did do some experimental archaeology, otherwise known as reenacting, to sort of experience what the hoplites and the legion sort of went through, and you know how tiring it is and whatnot. He's also a former soldier, so he's fairly fit. But so you're stabbing down with a spear, you know, overhand down onto somebody next to you. In these styles, because they don't have now some of these, and you can see here, do have sort of bucket saddles, and which was fairly common for at least some type of horsemen. But if you you know, sort of crouch and use the lance, you definitely need a bucket saddle, and preferably stirrups, or you get, when you impact, you get thrown off the horse, you know, because the spear goes out in front of you. It impacts the enemy first, and then there's not much that's holding on to the horse, so you go backwards while the horse continues, or you stop and the horse keeps going forwards, where the riding on the back of a horse and you're stabbing down with a spear just to get a little longer range. But with some of these pike groups, because like I say, you know, with it's not as good as a medieval or cavalry until the sort of rebirth of the pike square coming out of the Swiss, generally sort of looked at. Until that happens, cavalry is supreme in Europe for combat over the infantry, because although they do use spears and often with shields, they're long linear formations instead of deep formations. That's another thing that is not well demonstrated here. Now these, the hoplite types, are generally a bit thinner, where the phalanx are a bit more square in their formations, meaning they're very deep. And you would, in this scale of warfare, you would need to have several units to make up a line. But otherwise, if you just had one unit, it'd be sort of square. So it is sort of a pike square, if you will. And so, but the medieval and Dark Age, but that's, you know, on that type of warfare. But once you get the stirrup in, most of them are fairly thin shield walls, or you know, like the Scottish Siltron and other formations, that they're fairly thin. You know, I would sort of go like 2 ranks deep, kind of thing, fairly thin. You know, a lot of sort of sharp, pointy things sticking out there, and then go to the sword. But these formations are long and thin, and either you could get enough momentum with enough horses so they can't turn, and that's long and thin enough that there is no, sorry if we're taken away from battle and uninteresting, but so if you've got a bunch of horses coming straight at this group, and there's not breaks in the formation, the horses can't really see a path necessarily to turn to avoid it. Now obviously at the flanks they can, but so they still sort of impact, and if it's thin, just that simple body of the horse and everything else impacting its speed into the thin line will break it. And on the other hand, because the nature of the formations and the speed, that if you don't have the 2 flanks anchored, the horse can move around and hit it really hard. So you have the supremacy of cavalry until the pike square comes out, that then allows enough pikes in any one direction, so it's deep enough that a charging horse attack will not break it, and you can't flank it. And because they do it in squares, sort of like the Roman legion, so without really realizing, because they didn't know all these details back in the sort of early Renaissance, is when you start getting the pike square, that they're sort of doing the sort of checkerboard type idea of the legion. And so if you're sort of impacting on a flank of a pike square, another pike square can move towards you and come into your flank, and you know, now you're trapped between 2 pike squares. And so I guess they just never really got to the idea of, because especially once they went down to the smaller shield, you should be able to train to have commands to turn it into a pike square, if you will, with the shield. And yeah, so they just didn't have that sort of mindset to do so, is my thoughts. Now I don't know what to do with these guys, because obviously normally I would start running some of these guys to the flank. Okay, let's move him to the flank here. I really like some of the descriptions of some of the battles. It's really been nice. I guess we'll move these guys here, because it looks like most of this is we're gonna win here. This is getting deep, might have enough pressure, but these guys seeming to be fairly weak, so it's more this flank we're gonna have, if any, problem. And so we're gonna refuse the our right flank until they do something about all this stuff. That, I think, may be my problem with this, is, and I talked about this before, is my inability to time cavalry charges well so that they impact. And I talked about, because, especially with both the Greek and the Roman, they were very limited on their horse. They definitely both had them. Rome's have always been notoriously bad, to the point that Caesar really liked using some was it Belgate, or one of the Celtic type tribes from Gaul's horse, and some other non-Roman horse. The equites are sort of the horse class in Rome, and they just were well equipped, but just never really the thing, never really that good. And the Greeks were, you know, there you get some of the sort of northern Greek, sort of like the Macedonian types, that did have horses, but when you put together fairly large armies, they were a fairly small component of it. So more sort of flank guards, if you will, as opposed to like, you know, take the other extreme, Mongol horse armies in which basically everybody's on horseback. Now they may fight on foot, very much, especially if you're like besieging a city and you're taking the city. Obviously, you're probably getting off the horse to fight, and the Mongols were quite capable of it. But everybody's, you know, heading to the war, you know, heading to the battle on horse, and it's only if for some reason, I don't know, climb over some obstacles or something to get at the enemy, rough terrain or something, your horse can't get at it. You know, they were quite capable of, you know, going afoot and either being temporary foot archers or temporary foot soldiers, but otherwise it was a horse army. Did we fire? Yeah. Okay. They weren't, and you can get various Eastern stuff. So they're very much, I think, more, and I should use it in these cases, very much more, stay out of the battle, just hang back here until these guys commit themselves, either coming at me, you know, the horse is here, or coming and hitting my flank and being engaged, and then we sweep in and sweep around. So that's sort of going to be my strategy. I'm learning. Okay, I'm going to keep these two units sort of back a ways, a way that, because again, and I think this is right in that, especially for the time period, we can't turn to face either way, but we can sort of start to move here. So if I were to move up here, I would only be able to move in this direction to here, but from here I'd be able to get to here to back that up if this starts to collapse or whatever. So I'm sort of hanging back with these, but we're already seeing enough forces here that if we put that on the flank, it'll do good, I think. I think I'm going to win the, maybe not here, this is looking pretty bad, this concentration of fire. But I think we're going to win this sort of, well, skirmishers might not win because we're in essence sort of, in my opinion, facing an army of skirmishers. It was probably a tactical mistake to try to put them out there. Should have just created a flank of skirmishers as well. Yeah, that's this I'm deciding is a tactical mistake, or I should have fled back much sooner. Okay. I think we're gonna get the best of this. I'm worried that if I start doing sort of frontal combat too soon, those guys may sort of impact on me. Well, let's shoot there. And actually, there's a preservation. Oh, we can't. I was hoping to hit them in the rear. Okay, because they've got units beside them, they can't attack. I think I'm going to save my fire there. Like I say, I think I made a tactical mistake keeping them out there when I should have brought them back. Okay, guys are sort of doomed, I think. Okay, mostly I wanted to get these guys to be able to... Well, maybe there, I guess. They could have anyways. That looks like the best, greatest effect. Yeah, we're not putting you out in the front. Okay, I think we'll move back just one. They'd have to talk about falling back in the ancient world, how that can cause disruption and chaos. Now, the more I look at this game, the more I'm liking its historically correct operation. Yes, turn-based, but I think the skirmishers would have been better to be used against heavy foot, and then obviously run away once, you know, come into contact. But I think putting them in essence a light foot army that we did is a mistake. Yeah, because I'm seeing particularly like we're losing 24 and they're losing 124 or more per volley. I think we're doing the right thing by holding now. Just continue to fire arrows at them, and I'm still a little worried about what that might be of impact if they... break my line, I think we will avoid that. I'm going to keep my line here. I definitely feel I have that. Yeah, you guys get to run away. You guys get to run away. You guys can't. Okay, they're routing good. Yeah, I think we can turn and shoot here without worrying about being too hit in the flank or formation. I know if they sort of come straight at it, it's not a flank attack, but if we come in from this angle, it might just become a flank attack. But I don't think anything's going to hit us hard enough to make that happen. Okay, not big enough reason to turn, I don't think. Yeah, just taking that one out would be good. Okay, well, that'd be a good move, I think. Let's move past through and shoot in their face. Oh, he sort of protects his unit. What is immortals? Yeah, I'd prefer not to completely lose an immortal unit, but again, immortals were immortals because they just simply be replaced. As talked about earlier, a lot of classical era units, and they really did understand this of unit cohesion. So they really tried to keep units together for a long time. Now, not that you wouldn't add fresh replacements to units, but it wasn't done as much as we might think. Meaning, it's sort of like you recruit them up, they're this unit you keep together, and you would rather have them dwindle over time than send in reinforcements. But I'm not saying they didn't get reinforcements, but it was, you know, like, oh yeah, my younger brother's joining us. Or, you know, it's sort of the idea that you sort of know who and what is the reinforcements and replacements are. Okay, yeah, I think we'll even come right to here. I think what we'll do, well, maybe we'll want to charge there. Okay, I'm going to leave my horse just where they are. I'm probably overcompensating the opposite way from rushing in too quickly normally with horse. Okay, good. Okay, they break. Run away. Yeah, run away. Go ahead. I'm not concerned right now about at least my skirmishers just running away. They definitely talk about how, oh, I forgot to shoot these guys, or do something with these guys, and maybe these. Yeah. It depended on the unit, because sometimes, you know, if you saw some of your troops running away, it didn't bother you, but you saw other units breaking and running away, it did really sort of start the collapse. And so it like if the king's bodyguard unit is fleeing the battlefield, probably it's a good time, you know, to, you know, get out of there. But if it's the skirmishers running away, you see them fleeing in terror, you're probably going, oh yeah, okay, you know, no problem. You know, if you're the heavy line infantry, you know, in the back, it's getting ready to come forward. I don't mean just simply the skirmishers doing their sort of skirmishing job. I mean simply completely running in panic. Okay, now we're going to concentrate on this unit here, because it is not destroyed like this one is, and it's sort of harming my flank, which I'm worried that if those guys, I don't know if those guys have any, talked about it last time, why the chariots were important. And they also talked about mentioning Darius or whoever liked to be in a chariot because he's a bit taller to see the battlefield. Okay, 126. Yeah, we're gonna completely try to munch that unit. And didn't quite take it down. Okay, yeah, that's great crowding. Hope you take a bunch of other people with you. Okay, well here. Definitely gonna do the eastern thing and use archers as long as we can. This is King Nabonidus, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna think about that. See if I can remember to. Because I don't think I want to turn and use them there. So, because we're having a problem here on our flank. Because I don't want to even turn my flank to them. So we're gonna shoot straight ahead. Slight arc there. Okay. Yeah. Well, no. Can we turn? No. Oh, we can turn that way. That's good. That's perfect. And we don't have enough time to attack, but we can turn. Okay. Not big enough. Well, maybe that actually like that. Yes. Okay, see if we can sort of start this. I think they'll flee. Evade, yes. But just, I didn't quite like that. I would have wanted to be back here, but maybe they just would have shot. Okay, and here we're just going to move to... Here, maybe. Yeah. I'm still trying to refuse the right and getting ready to charge these guys. But if these guys are going to stay out here, and we can turn the flank with these phalanx, we can do really well, hopefully. Okay, we'll just turn the unit. I don't need to try to go and face them. Yeah, I know you're disrupted, but I think you'll be okay. I hope you'll be okay. You're gonna stay back in this area anyways. Okay. No. Here. They just don't know, these guys. What are they? No. Okay, the thing was over. Okay, type heavy foot, quality superior armored, light spear swordsman. So they're probably going to be pain in the ass if they get to me. But then the question, my question is if we were to hit here, and I don't think we're going to auto break and fragment and get all these guys to rout. So I think we will shoot here. Just pick away at them a bit more. Okay. I think I remembered everything that we could do, and we have some alright, dispersing. Okay. Oh, we definitely just about got rid of all of the front line in the way of those charioteers. Let's see what they do now. They no longer have the difficulty of what to do with the people in front of us. Yeah, see, like I say, we've gotten rid of some of that. Okay, they're coming up. They're coming up to hit me in the flank there. They're deciding to come up and shoot. Because, yeah, okay. Ooh, they turn and face them. How interesting. You see, that's what I was worried about those guys. They just may be too much to take on with my non-phalanx troops. I thought those charioteers were archers. We'll see if they're also impact. Okay, well, let's come over here and start here. Let's see about, and this may be a mistake, but we'll see about breaking that unit. Okay, and then we will see about taking that on, and we'll see about taking that on there. I think a concentration here is good. See if we can get them disrupted. Now, we're here with this. Now, they also talked about hiding troops and how that sometimes, and again, this has been a very interesting book. A big part of the book in the front, it was just sort of an introduction. And they talk about how you can read all of the primary sources for a topic in the classical world. It's something that's accessible. You can get to and read every single thing there, so you can have complete knowledge of everything we know about something like the Legion and the Phalanx. But they also talk about how once you're done, you're done. You know, there isn't any more information. So much stuff we don't know, and which is an infinite topic. Now, of course, we can constantly read other writers that write about the classical period, and there's constantly being new papers written, for doctorate degrees and whatnot, and and yes, they do come up with new archaeological stuff, but so there's a finite amount of source material, and it's both good that you can completely get the topic, but it can also be bad in that there isn't that much information. Okay, these guys are okay. I think we're gonna turn and shoot there, and then we're going to come up with these guys here. Be ready to maybe move in out them. These we're going to shoot them in the face. Now they're disrupted. Oh, well, good. Ooh, big hit there. Okay. Now, don't want to block anything I might do with them, so, so they're sort of on that flank there. We're going to shoot at these guys. These guys are going to come up to here, and we're going to shoot at these guys. Okay, so now they follow my flanking point there. Now here, oh damn, these guys are blocked. I think they could retreat through the horse if it wasn't for them. Not sure what I want to do with them. Okay, they could hit there. Okay, now, so these guys are ready to impact me on the flank here. So what we're going to do here is charge into those guys. We're not doing as well as I'd hoped, but doing something. And we're going to be ready to come after these guys. I think we want to do that. Yeah. So if they hit us in the flank, hopefully we'll be able to countercharge effectively. I think these guys will run away. But they take a little bit of loss doing that. Good. And now we're going to move these guys up. That's what these guys are going to protect our flank. Let's see, maybe we're timing this well. Get ready to, countercharge, just skirmish with these. Yeah, I think we're safe from being attacked from that angle, so let's... And just because of things, we're going to move now this way. Because I think, if anything, it's going to impact here, and that's sort of weakening. Yeah, let's move to there. Oh wow, they came up but didn't either strike the... or charge the phalanx in the flank, or shoot their... in the flank with arrows. How interesting. Yeah, what I'm hoping to do is keep pushing fast this way with them. May not be able to do that, though. Those charioteers are really mostly just being archer units. Okay, so we're gonna keep pushing here so that we get out of these guys from range. I'm not too worried about a couple of flanking archers. Who is this? Okay, we may not win the sub-general missing. Okay. Let's turn and shoot. Disrupted a general's unit. Yeah, I think we'll not do that. Maybe yeah. Oh yeah, we want to win this. Melee? Well, we didn't. Okay. Yeah, like I say, now we could retreat. Well, before we do that, so we can't even attack there. Okay, how would we do here? Very well, it looks like. Okay, we're gonna fall back here. Wish I could shoot and then fall back, but oh well. Yeah, let's hit these guys. And that's still the best. Wow, 204. I think we'll actually do the most damage with that. And then, because I want to start sweeping up some of these units, let's hit them there. Okay, well, okay, they're fragmented, good. Denser pack units so can take more losses, I presume. Wow. This is their king. We're going to see about doing that. So weaken them some more and then we charge them that way. Okay. And of course these guys, well, they could fight in that combat, but I don't know that we want to do that. We've been weakening them considerably. Okay, now we don't want to actually go into ground combat, melee combat. No, I don't want to move up because we're disrupted. I think we'll stay right where we're at. Okay, I'm sort of liking that. Well, the king's bodyguard is rallied. Sounds like maybe expected. The king's bodyguard would. Charge him, but that was, I was worried about that particular unit. It does look like they reformed the second line back here. Yeah, let's just shoot them. They break, they grab. Very good. They're sort of too far away. I'm gonna just turn. I'm gonna move these guys up in case they break. Already sort of. Make me a turn. Already. Just turn. And undo. Okay, no, it's you guys. I keep messing that up. Oh well. Okay, here. Yeah, let's concentrate our fire right on that. It's still in fairly good shape. The question is, do we want to enter into combat, ground combat here, melee combat here, or turn and shoot here? I think we're going here. We're just going to shoot. Guys are charging in good. Sort of what I wanted to happen. Okay. I'm gonna get him. Ooh, that didn't work out well. Okay. But we still have some reserves here. Okay. What do we want to get here? Let's hit here. So we'll take that better casualty rate. these guys. Mostly I'm just trying to push these people off the map and get out of the way. Okay, well if we come over here with chance we can break it. Okay, you guys come here. Get a little bit of a counteract here. Okay, well this has gone on long enough. I've really been enjoying it. So don't forget about the contest. If you, it would be really good if you hit the like button for this video and post a comment below. There are some good games from Slytherin open. You know, 3 will be given away in this contest. So like, comment here. Go to episode 117 of the Hearts of Iron 3 series. It's the highlighted episode on our channel right now for subscribers. It's also, of course, good to subscribe. So good luck with that. See you next time for more historical gaming.